Welcome to the Deep Dive,
Emerald City Hockey's Seattle Kraken podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Deep Dive, Emerald City Hockey's Seattle Kraken podcast. We are continuing the month of August here, RJ, which means we are continuing on this podcast our way too early month of predictions. And this week we are going to be predicting the Kraken stat leader in just about every stat that matters, really. We skip maybe some of the weird stuff like plus minus or whatever that's kind of impossible to predict and maybe doesn't tell us that much. But every year we go through and we project who we think is going to lead the team: goals, assists, points, all the fun stuff, face-off, win percentage, RJ, the important things that help you win hockey games. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to also hearing how we did last year. I early indications from what you told me, not great. So we'll
no,
go over that.
we did not do very well last year. Surprisingly poorly, we did. So I think we'll be humbled a little bit before we make our own predictions for this year.
Yes. So I'm really looking forward to that. But first, got a couple things we got to talk about. First and foremost, being Queen Anne Beer Hall, wonderful sponsor of this podcast each and every week. RJ, football season. It is officially upon us. Everybody's been playing their preseason games and football season. I do think Queen Anne Beer Hall, even when we're there covering hockey, football finds a way to be a thing at the beer hall, RJ. I will never forget when we were doing our post-game live from the beer hall and we're just watching the Chargers blow that playoff game to the Jaguars the entire time on the big screen as we were doing it. But the beer hall makes a great place to go and watch football, whether you're rooting for the Seahawks, which should be, or rooting for somebody else, like, I don't know, the Cincinnati Bengals. They make a pretty good team to root for. You can do it over at the beer hall.
Yeah, now is not the time to win people over to the Cincinnati Bengals, Dylan. You can do that on Red Glare or wherever else you want to, but not here on the Deep Dive.
It's fine.
Yeah, I think
it's fine.
Well, although
it's a different conference. Everybody should have an AFC team to go with their NFC team, right?
All right. Well, maybe enough people over here had the Jaguars, because remember that game, that playoff game? It was rocking. I was not expecting so many Jags and Chargers fans there for a game not involving the Seahawks, but there we go in Seattle. There's lots of great football fans.
Jaguars and Seahawks be like the furthest two teams from each other in the NFL.
Jacksonville's pretty far. I think Miami is a little further.
Oh yeah, Miami would be further. I forgot about them. I was just thinking of Tampa. So yeah, there you go. And then also, RJ, you got to talk about your upcoming Armchair GM stream over at patreon.com/Emerald City Hockey.
That's right. So the Armchair GM stream is tomorrow. So we do one of these every month on Patreon where we go on Armchair GM and we look at the Kraken from a roster building perspective, kind of step into Ron Francis's shoes, see what moves he could make, how the roster construction's going. This one's going to be interesting because it is the first one that we've done without Cap Friendly. So Cap Friendly, the best resource for all this stuff, has gone away. So I'm going to try and figure out how to make this work without Cap Friendly, but I think it'll still be pretty good. We're going to go over a couple of the Cap Friendly alternatives and see maybe where the best places to go there are as we prepare for next season. As you want to look up contract details, trades, all this sort of thing. There are a few websites that have popped up that have gotten good at that. So we're going to look at that. And then we're going to look at the Kraken's roster situation as it stands going into the season. Maybe what that Matty Beniers contract might look like. We can take a deeper dive into that as well. It's going to be a fun time.
Yep, definitely. So looking forward to checking that out tomorrow over at Patreon.
At 7 p.m. I should mention the time.
7 p.m. Yep. All right, RJ. Let's do it. Let's just get to the rough stuff. Let's get to the bad news and talk about how we performed last year when we were predicting who the Kraken stat leaders would be in all of these different categories.
Right. So last year we did the same thing and there were 17 stat categories that we went over. I guess 18 if you count shootout goals at the end, but we didn't really pick a leader for that. But we'll go with 17 main categories that we did, and that would be 13 skater categories and 4 goalie categories. I haven't told you how many we got right. How many do you think you got right out of 17, Dylan?
I mean, I know it's bad. If I say like 6, maybe.
6 would be pretty bad, huh?
Yeah, that would be pretty bad.
You got 5 right.
Oh, that's rough. That's really rough.
Yeah. 5 out of 17.
Yeah.
I would think that we would have done better, but I guess not. Look, there were a lot of surprises last season. It didn't go the way that we thought it would go generally. I think with the over-unders, we saw that last week, but only 5 right. And we'll go through each individual one and see where I got, depending on how you want to score it. And we'll get into the controversy here, but I'll go with 5. I think I also got 5 right. But it could be 4, it could be 6, depending on how you want to look at it. I will play it in the middle.
Nice and simple. I gotta love it.
We'll call it a tie, okay?
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, we didn't overall do very well, but a lot of things. Yeah, as we'll get into.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, let's just get into it now, right? Like, let's go through these. I mean, I have
start
to
on a high note.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I have to imagine the first category of goals we probably got right.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We both had Jared McCann as the team's goal leader. He's been the team goal leader every season of the team's existence. We didn't think that was going to change.
No,
and it didn't.
See, yeah, seemed pretty bankable. All right, so that was the easy place to start. Did things go off the rails immediately after that?
A little bit, yes, because then assists was the next category, and you guessed Andre Burakovsky.
Okay.
And I guessed Matty Beniers.
Okay.
So who was more wrong?
Well, yeah, if you're looking at the actual number, I was more wrong. But I guess I can hang my hat on the fact that he played half a season.
Yeah, that injuries, I guess, were a little harder to predict.
Yeah. Either way, ouch. Matty was 6th. Andre Burakovsky 16th on the team in assists. So
I think we were a little
rough.
too optimistic.
Yeah.
As with some of the over-unders, we were a little too optimistic.
Yeah, just a little. All right. Well, points, though. Then.
Points we were also wrong, and for the same reason, and we were optimistic. We both had Matty Beniers as the team's point leader. Look, we thought he was going to take the next step.
We did. We thought he was going to be good. We did.
We also provided like a dark horse candidate for a lot of these as well.
Oh,
and so that's where it also got kind of interesting. I mean, you had Andre Burakovsky as your dark horse points leader, so you were feeling very
really in
on
Berkey apparently. Yeah.
And I had Jordan Eberle because I figured, well, he'd just be spending a lot of time with Matty, so didn't exactly go that way.
No. Oh man, these are rough. Of course, Jared McCann being the points leader, and Bjorkstrand, by the way, ended up being the assist leader for the team last year, which I would not have ended up picking Bjorkstrand, right? Like
no, his name was not meant by us at all for the assists category.
All right. What was the next category after points?
So penalty minutes last year. Now, Dylan, you can take your victory lap because you got this right. You had Vince Dunn as the penalty minutes leader. He ended up being the penalty minutes leader with 78. A pretty good distance between him and second, Will Borgen.
Yeah.
So you guessed that correctly. I guessed Jamie Alexiak just by virtue of, he'd be out there as a defensive defenseman. I was wrong. I think he also was near the lead last year because of all the fights. He just didn't fight as much, only 37 penalty minutes.
Yeah. See, Vince Dunn, that temper, it sometimes gets him into trouble, and you can bank on that. Apparently.
Yep, you certainly can. We'll see if we can bank on it for next year when we get to that category. But power play goals next. We both got this right. The goals ones are pretty easy.
Goals
right?
ones are really easy on this team. Yeah. All right.
You go with McCann. He's the favorite.
Bjorkstrand only one behind him, though, by the way. Like, Jared McCann led the team with 9, Bjorkstrand 8. Pretty close.
Okay, I'll give myself a little credit here because we were listing our dark horse power play goals leader. You said Matty Beniers. I said Oliver Bjorkstrand if they actually use the bumper spot at any point. So
yeah, well, there you go.
Maybe you saw that coming a little
bit. Good job.
All right, shorthanded goals, and this is where I get to take the victory lap back from you. This is great. So I had Yanni Gord.
Okay.
He tied for the lead in shorthanded goals. So I'll give myself the win there, I think.
Yeah.
That tie is a win.
Yeah.
Okay. You guessed Brandon Tanev, and I need to quote what you said here.
All right.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Quote from last year. He gets so many breakaways. This is the year that the luck kind of tips in his favor. And you predicted that he would be like, he's like, if he could just get 15% of those breakaways and score, like he'll be golden. It's fine. Right. So you felt like it was the lucky year on the breakaway for Brandon Tanev. I said, I think 15% might be a little generous.
Yeah.
Listener, it was not Brandon Tanev's lucky year on breakaways.
No.
I think we all know that.
Yeah, got none of them. Got 0% of them, RJ.
So we'll see a little bit later if you want to double down on that this year, but wrong on the shorthanded goals front. So I take one back from you there.
Yep.
Game-winning goals.
Yeah.
So you had Ellie Tolvanen. I had Andre Burakovsky.
Okay.
Where's Tolvanen here? Tolvanen had 3.
Yes, Tolvanen was tied with like half the team. It looks like for second place on the team, because there was Alex Wenberg. Believe it or not, everybody, 4 game-winning goals last year to lead the team, and then Jared McCann, Oliver Bjorkstrand, Jordan Eberle, Ellie Tolvanen, Shane Wright, all tied for second place with 3.
Yeah, Shane Wright doing so in 8 games, by the way. 3 of his 4 goals were game winners, which is just wild. I think we pointed it out at the time, but just looking back at it on a stat sheet seems crazy. Burakovsky with just 1, nowhere near. So you were closer. Yeah. But Alex Wenberg takes the win. I don't think either of us saw that coming. This is a good example of where just things played out in a way we did not expect.
4 of his 9 goals with the Kraken last year, game winners. Good for Wenny.
Yep, good for him. Moving on to shots. I don't know what I was thinking here. Because you had Jared McCann, and that was the obvious pick.
And I talked
for a while. Yeah, about why it was the obvious pick. And then I went galaxy brain and picked Oliver Bjorkstrand. I don't know why I did it. I mean, he finished second, so it's not way off the board. But I don't know what I was thinking there. So take the win, but this is an unforced error.
I mean, you picked the only other person that had a chance, right? I mean, we've talked a lot on this podcast about how the Kraken do not have volume shooters on this team. Like, that is just not the identity of the players on this Kraken roster. McCann and Bjorkstrand are kind of the only 2. So I don't mind that. Like, you were playing to win, right? Like, if there's kind of 2 options on the board, you could go for the tie, or you could risk it all and go for the win. I maybe go with that as the mentality.
What I hear is you trying to convince me to do something stupid like that again this year. I don't think I will.
I'm not trying to manipulate you. I'm not, RJ.
Oh yeah,
don't think that. Don't think like that. I would never do that to you. It's fine. Yeah. No, but I genuinely do think that. Like, I think that would be that could have been some of the thought process there. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, next category is shooting percentage. Now, Dylan, if we don't take games played requirements into this, you know who's led the Kraken the last 2 seasons in shooting percentage?
Well, I am looking at it right now, and it's Shane Wright.
Yeah, not just this past season, but the year before that as well, in very limited sample sizes, mind you. 8 games each, but 25% shooting percentage 2 years ago, and then 33.3% this past season.
Pretty good.
So it'll be interesting when we pick for this year's, but if we rule him out, because I think we'll do a reasonable games played minimum.
Yeah.
Then it was Tomas Tatar, who I don't think either of us would have reasonably guessed either.
No, considering he wasn't on the team.
Right. But he played 43 games, so I think he is the legit leader.
But do we do leaders of players on the roster at time of picking?
Well, clearly you would say that we don't, because if we do, then that would be Jared McCann, who I guessed and you did not. So this is one of the ones that I was saying depends on how we score it.
I mean,
this would give me the win.
Even
there's another one later that would also give me the win potentially. So save your protest if you want.
I was gonna say, like, I do genuinely feel like that is the reasonable way to do it. Is to have a reasonable games played limit and also be reasonable about the idea that we did not predict a trade for Tomas Tatar in the cards for the Kraken. And so like Jared McCann is for our purposes here on the deep dive the de facto leader.
All right, I will highlight that cell in my Excel spreadsheet in green. There we go. Thank you, Dylan. You're so kind.
Yeah, I am.
All right, well, let's get to one you got correct.
All right.
Yeah, average time on ice. We both got this right. We both said Vince Dunn.
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
I think we both predicted. Yeah, it was pretty easy. Now, blocks. This was interesting listening to the episode last year because we felt like this was a one-man race and it was not going to be close. And it was as obvious as picking Jared McCann for goals. We thought it was going to be Adam Larson.
Yeah.
He had been the previous blocks leader. It just seemed clear. Nobody was anywhere close to him. But you know what?
Get a lot of ice time. Yeah, it made sense.
Somebody else stepped up, Jamie Alexiak. and just ate a whole bunch of shots
Oh,
this
so
season.
many.
He sure did. And he was the team's block leader. So we both got that one wrong.
Yeah. No, I did not realize the magnets that Jamie Alexiak was going to put in his skates that were just going to start drawing pucks to him. Yeah, no, that one, good dark horse candidate came through there.
Yep. So it makes it a lot more interesting for this year too, as we
Yeah.
pick. It's not obvious. Hits, another interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
So and especially with the hit stats getting revised mid-season,
Yeah.
that was an interesting development in the NHL this
Yeah.
year, as new hit totals came out. But I guessed Will Borgen.
Yep.
You guessed Brandon Tanev. I think we both kind of went with our favorites because the hits numbers were kind of odd last season. And you felt like there was no clear favorite, so we just went with I think we both went with the vibes pick.
Yeah.
And Will Borgen ended up finishing third.
Mm-hmm.
Tanev sixth. So they were both kind of in the running there. But the hits leader, Ty Karche, with 229 last season. Second is Ellie Tolvanen.
I know.
I would not have guessed those guys at 1 and 2. I would have thought maybe a defenseman somewhere. But yeah, Karche and Tolvanen.
I was going to say, the Cartier one doesn't surprise me now, because there was a handful of games where I just remember going through post-game live, like after some of the bad games, and we're just like struggling for things to talk about, and just noticing that Cartier would have like 6 hits in a game, like kind of consistently. So like I kind of believe the Cartier thing now, but I would have, there's zero chance I would have projected that before last season started. Tolvanen, again, I mean, he throws the body around on the forecheck a lot. It's just, again, what's a hit, what's not a hit, you know what I mean? Like, and I think sometimes he does a good job of bodying people up along the boards. I wouldn't always consider them hits so much as like maybe, you know, glorified picks maybe, but obviously they, you know, who knows what a hit is in the NHL. The NHL last year admitted they don't entirely know, and that's why they changed what was classified a hit.
Right. I think a more generous definition of hit really benefits those numbers for him.
Yeah.
But that's good. That's all physical
contact. It's all fine. Yeah, it's all,
right, yeah,
he's
all
doing
fine.
the job he should be doing, and it is benefiting the Kraken, absolutely. It's just, yeah, I think
he's not going to level anyone.
Nicer. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So next is face-off percentage. And we have another potential controversy here in how we want to score this. You picked Yanni Gourde, which was just wrong.
Yes.
I picked Pierre-Edouard Bellemare. And now there's a potential argument for this because the Kraken's actual face-off percentage leader, no restrictions here, is Andrew Podoralski, having won 3 and lost 0. So good for you, Potsy.
Yeah.
But we'll remove him. I don't think there's any controversy about that.
No.
Next on the list, though, is Jaden Schwartz.
Yeah.
So he's not a center.
No.
He's a winger who stepped in to take faceoffs. A lot of faceoffs, actually. He won 92 of them.
Yeah.
Lost 69 for a 57.1% faceoff percentage. He was the Kraken's best faceoff.
I was going to say, why was he not taking every faceoff that mattered last year? Like, he should have been.
Probably should have. And maybe he should take some more this year. But it's impressive. I mean, on Hockey Reference here, he is listed as a center, even though he's not.
Yeah.
So do we want to count him or not? Because he did take less face-offs, a good deal less face-offs than any of the actual centers on the team.
Right. But he also took substantially more than any winger. Like, because I was thinking before I even saw the numbers, when you just kind of loosely told me about this before we started recording, in my mind, the number I came up with was 100 face-offs. Like, if you take 100 face-offs, that's better than 1 per game. And I feel like that's like kind of a good level. Now I'm looking at this now. Again, I'm not trying to manipulate this just to like keep you from having the W here. I still kind of feel like that's good considering some of the other numbers from wingers, right? Like Ty Cartier did not take 100 face-offs. Jordan Eberle didn't take 100 face-offs. Yams took 100 face-offs.
He did,
but he also played center at times that year. So
right. So I think that actually is a fair bar. No, I'll give you that because if you look at the guys who took over 100 faceoffs, it's Matty Beniers, Yanni Gourde, Alex Wenberg, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, the obvious centers.
Yeah.
Jared McCann, who we do played center for a lot of time. Then Jaden Schwartz and Kyler Yamamoto. Those are the 2 who got added.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair bar. I mean,
yeah, that's a reasonable.
You could do 200 and make it for sure only centers.
Yeah.
But
But
It's fine. I will give you this one. You were
Okay.
so kind to me earlier.
All
So
right.
I was wrong. I did not guess Jaden Schwartz as the team faceoff
No.
leader. If I had, I wonder if you would have even let me do that.
Yeah,
or
that
what.
would have been incredible. Like that would have been. I mean, we would have established at that point picking some sort of bar for number of faceoffs.
Yes.
I feel like.
Yep. But he's eligible this year. I'm sure we can pick anybody, and now we know where the bar is. So 100 faceoffs is what we're looking at for this year.
Yeah, I feel like this was one where what I was saying earlier with the shots, where I was saying, you know, picking Bjorkstrand to kind of go for the win. I feel like that's what I was doing here, where Belmar was the obvious pick for face-off win percentage leader, but I didn't want to like necessarily just tie you or pick the same guy, so I went with the only other guy I thought it could reasonably be, which was Yanni Gord, which wasn't a great move.
No, it's a great move. I like the strategy. You should definitely do that more this year.
Yeah, okay. All right, on to goalies.
Yes, so goalies, every year that we've done this, we have gotten goalies
we're
massively
terrible.
wrong.
Yeah, we're terrible at it.
And last year we were talking about, we thought this was going to be easy. We picked Grubauer clean sweep across the board.
Yeah.
And then Martin Jones shows up and is the wins leader and is the leader in all these categories, right? Last year, similar thing. You picked Grubauer for 3 out of the 4 categories. I picked Grubauer for 3 out of the 4 categories. And you know what? He was the leader in none of them.
Yeah.
So wins, we both went Grubauer. We thought it was him. As we know, Joey took the starting job, led the team in wins. Save percentage. You went Grubauer, predictably.
Yeah.
I actually did pick Joey Decord.
Okay. There you go.
So now here's the thing. I wasn't right. Chris Drieger actually led the team in save percentage.
Yes.
So I feel like
But he only played 2 games.
Well, that's the thing. Do we count that? Because you picked Chris Drieger for a later category. You picked him for quality start percentage. Like we were taking into account, because remember, the goalie battle had not been settled. The backup job had not been settled.
That's true.
So do we count it or do we not? I told you, lots of controversy here.
Yeah.
You can take a point off the board for me here. Do we count it?
I feel like with goalies, you can have a lower bar for like games played than with skaters, but also
That's what I was thinking.
two feels like really low.
It is really low. Do we want to set a minimum games played threshold for goalies?
Maybe we should. And what do you think it should be? Like even 5 feels reasonable, right? Like 5 I feel like is a good number for goalies. Like just to include a third person semi reasonably. But I do feel like 2 is maybe a little too low.
Yeah, and it throws the numbers all, because we only have one counting stat here, which is wins.
Yeah.
Save percentage, goals against average. I mean, that could just throw off all the picks.
It could, yeah.
So I feel like I was right in the spirit of this with Joey leading the team in save percentage.
Yeah.
So we'll go with that. That gives me the win again. Thank you for being so generous here.
You've been the winner. You've been tied. You've been the winner. We've been tied. You've been the winner. This is fun.
So save percentage, I got right. A little indicator of predicting that maybe the goaltending situation wouldn't be exactly what we think. Goals against average, we both had Grubauer. That was not correct.
Wrong.
Joey was the team leader in goals against average.
Yeah.
And then quality start percentage. Joey was the clear leader in that.
Yeah.
You're second, I guess, with 500. 1 quality start, 1 not quality start. Grubauer down at 441. I had Grubauer. You had Chris Drieger.
Yeah.
I mean, he finished ahead of Grubauer, so you were more right than I was.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
so those are the goalie stat leaders. We get 1 out of 8 guesses for each. We get 1 point total out of that. I guess that the lesson there is expect the unexpected.
Yeah. Well, it's goaltending, so that feels appropriate.
Yep. That is what goaltending is. And then finally, shootout goals. We didn't guess leaders for this. How you phrased it was
score.
Yeah, the prior season, I guess the Kraken had 1 shootout goal all year, and it was from Jordan Eberle. And so you asked, who's going to get the other one? And so you said Matty Beniers. I said Oliver Bjorkstrand. They both got 1. Bjorkstrand had fewer attempts.
Yeah.
So there's that. But yeah, we'll tie on that one either way. But we should actually do shootout goal leader.
We should do shootout goal leader this year for sure. It was Yams last year. I'm sure everybody knows.
3.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nobody else had more than one.
No. All right. So with that out of the way, we can start picking season 4 leaders here, RJ. So we go back to the top. Again, pretty easy one here. Goals. Jared McCann, just pencil it in for both of us.
Neither of us are going to fumble this, right?
Yeah, no.
Now, do you have a dark horse, though, for goals leader? So we did pick him last year.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked about it. I think like 20 to 25 is reasonable expectation-wise for Shane Wright, just given where he's coming from and all that kind of stuff. So I'd probably say Shane Wright.
Yeah, he's the name that I had. If something were to happen to McCann, or just for looking at second place, I'd probably go with Shane Wright.
Yeah. So there's
all
that.
Right, assists.
Both
got this wrong last year.
Yeah.
What are we thinking for this season? Oliver Bjorkstrand was the leader. Do either of us want to go with Bjorkstrand as our pick?
I'm not. I'm not either. There's a name I'm going with, and that's Vince Dunn.
Yeah, I had him here as top of my list too. Look, if he had stayed healthy, his numbers over the course of an 82-game season, it would have been him, and it wouldn't have been particularly close.
Yeah.
Are you worried about Montour, though? Maybe taking away some of those opportunities, the time on ice for when you're chasing goals?
Yeah, the time on ice.
Does that eat into him at all?
Maybe. I think the big thing is going to be power play. Like, realistically, Montour should be the power play 1 quarterback, not Vince Dunn. I think Vince Dunn is the better all-around player, but I think Montour is better in those situations than Vince Dunn has proven to be. And you look at it, and over half of his assists did come on the power play for Vince Dunn. So maybe that eats in there, but at the same time, I think right now, I think Shane Wright will probably end up maybe being better, but I think Vince Dunn is just the best player on this team. And I think the best players on teams just find ways of producing. And so I'm just going to go with Vince Dunn.
Yeah, that's fair logic. Now, this is not as much of a lock as it was last year. Do you have a dark horse for this? If not Vince Dunn, who do you see leading the team in assists?
I was maybe a little bit optimistic on Chandler Stevenson last week. Maybe I keep that going and go with him.
Okay. I think that's...
Am I giving myself enough cover for if I'm wrong next year by saying maybe?
Yeah, I get. Well, I will watch the episode and I will bring it up and I can quote you like I did for the Tanev thing. So we'll see. You can get a little bit of cover there, or I can omit the maybe. I can do that too. Brandon Montour, I guess, might be my other one, just in case he really kind of steps up into that role, and it's for the same reasons as Vince Dunn. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, I'm still thinking Dunn.
Yeah, and
what does it say that my two favorites, the favorite and the dark horse, are defensemen?
It does say something. I was gonna say I don't hate Montour as a pick here. I just think first year on a team, generally guys don't go out there and lead a stat category like that, particularly a defenseman. So, granted, I chose somebody else on their first year on this team. I just think he's gonna get shoehorned into a lot of minutes.
Probably. Now, is it going to be enough minutes to lead the team in points, Dylan, as we go to the next category? Or are you going to repeat your pick? Are we both going to repeat our pick from last year and just pick Matty Beniers again?
I don't think I'm going to do that. No.
Okay.
I think I'm going to go away from Matty Beniers here. I will say this. We did have, back when we were asking for memorable moment submissions, a couple weeks ago, we did have somebody email in. This is from Sam, who had a couple way too early bold predictions, and Sam has Chandler Stevenson leading the team in scoring. Do you, RJ, have Chandler Stevenson leading the team in scoring?
Throwing it back to me. No, I do not. That is a bold prediction, more bold than I'm willing to go. No, I don't think he'll lead the team in scoring. Probably top 5 somewhere, but I don't have him leading. I'll go with my pick, and I can say it first so that you can just copy me. I'm guessing Jared McCann. He led the team in scoring. He's led the team in scoring every year. I think it's time that we stop overthinking this.
Yeah. So I was thinking that the obvious answer is Vince Dunn. Like, again, best player. I like going with the best player. He was on pace for the most points last year. He was on pace for 64, I believe.
He was.
Which would have cleared McCann by 2. But I was then going to be like, oh, RJ's probably going Vince Dunn, so I'm going to go Jared McCann. And then you went Jared McCann, so I guess I'll go Vince Dunn with Jared McCann as my dark horse.
Okay, there you go. And Vince Dunn, I think, would probably be second on my picks. But I think there's a number of interesting dark horse players you could go with. I mean, a lot of it relies on if something happens to a forward or if something happens to Vince Dunn. I still think, as with everything we pick Vince Dunn for, I think Brandon Montour could be in play for that. I still just don't see Stevenson, but and maybe Bjorkstrand. Look, he was only 3 points off the lead last year. Especially if things don't go well, maybe he could or be close to it.
My only thing, not to rain on the Bjorkstrand parade here, is that he had almost as many assists on the power play last year as he did at even strength. He had 22 even strength assists. He had 17 assists on the power play. And he also had 8 goals on the power play. Like, his power play numbers really kind of juiced his overall production. And I never am confident in any player outside of, like, McDavid or whatever, in being able to replicate that much of their production on special teams year over year. So that's
especially
why
with coaching change.
Yeah, so that's why I'm not as high on Bjorkstrand this year for leading in these statistical categories. I think he's a great player. He's gonna do well next year, all of that stuff. But I just think he got so much production on the power play last year, and historically for just hockey players in general, it's hard to repeat that.
Yeah, and it did feel like last year he was the one guy on the power play who it felt like was actually a good fit where he was, and it just kind of worked and clicked.
Yeah.
And not that it won't happen again this year, but I feel like other guys might also work and click on the power play, which would bump their numbers up above his. So moving on to penalty minutes. And these ones are a little more difficult to predict. Penalty minutes, I mean, it's been a different guy, I feel like, every year for the Kraken, right? Yeah. Who's going to be the PIMS leader? You had Vince Dunn last year. You took the win with that. Are you going to go with him back to back?
Again, he feels like the safe bet. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to say, like, yes, I'm going to take Vince Dunn. My dark horse is Yanni Gourde.
Okay. You think
I think with all the center
2 years ago?
Yeah, he did. But I just think with all the other centers that they have, Yanni can go out there and kind of be more of like a traditional fourth line guy potentially this year, and he can just kind of mix it up to his heart's content and won't have to worry about things as much. So I could see him getting himself into situations where like both guys go with roughing minors or whatever on a semi-consistent basis. So I'll say Yanni Gourde for my dark horse.
Okay, so for the dark horse, going with the pepper pot, that we'll be seeing a lot of that from him. I have a hard time not going Vince Dunn. That's what I wrote down here. I don't think I'm going to pivot from that. It just makes so much sense with all the ice time that he's going to see. It might not be all Undertaker stuff, but just minor penalties that you get by virtue of defending. And playing as much time as he does. My dark horse, though, I'll go Brandon Montour, as I feel like I'm doing this for everything that I'm picking Dunn for. But Montour, last season, only 46 penalty minutes, not very many. But the season before that, 107. That would have definitely led the Kraken. I mean, Dunn had 78 last year, so 107 would have been far and away the lead.
Yeah.
He's capable of it, I guess.
He is capable of it. It's going to be interesting to see kind of what role he has on this team, right? Like, the one thing about him that I feel strong about projecting what he's going to do with the Kraken is just that, like I said earlier, he's going to be the power play 1 quarterback. Outside of that, there's a lot of openness in how he's going to be used, how he's going to be deployed. I just kind of need to see training camp before I feel like I can just lock something down with him in my mind, which is maybe why I'm not going with him. But I could then see you going with him because it's entirely possible he ends up with a fairly large role.
Mm-hmm. You know what? Okay, it's penalty minutes. It's a weird enough stat. I'm going to change my pick. I'm going Montour.
Yeah, go for it.
And if we're just going on vibes here, which I am, I feel like he's going to get into a fight in the first 10 games or so at home. Get the crowd going, introduce himself to fans. Look, he doesn't fight very often. His last fight was in 2023. One before that was 2022. He doesn't fight often.
Once a year.
Yeah, like once a year. But I feel like he's going to have his once a year fight early on at home.
I like going for the style points. I like going for the style points with that prediction. So
yeah, the style points, as we'll get into next week.
Yeah,
style points are very much a thing.
Yes,
so I'm going to go for that.
Yes, they are. All right. What categories next here? Power play goals?
Yep, power play goals. Are we going with the obvious pick for all the goal categories?
Yeah.
I am.
How do you not?
It's Jared McCann.
How do you not? Yeah, it's going to be Jared McCann. Yeah. I mean, dark horse, like, I don't know.
Jaden Schwartz. I mean, look, this was a close race last year. McCann had 9, Bjorkstrand had 8, Schwartz had 7, Beniers had 6.
Ebbs had 6.
They were all in that range.
Yeah.
I mean, Burakovsky had 5 in 49 games.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to get me to pick my boy Berkey again.
I am. And actually, no, I'll go with him as my dark horse pick.
Oh, okay. You can do that. I think the power play this year is going to have maybe a little bit more of a traditional setup and feel to it. So I do like Jaden Schwartz as that kind of net front presence guy to kind of, be able to score on some rebound opportunities, be a net side presence maybe if they want to get a little creative with him. I think he's got the hands that, he can accept a pass across from, say, a Oliver Bjorkstrand or a Brandon Montour. I think Brandon Montour also has the power play quarterback. He can find somebody's stick net side with like a little bit of like a slap pass, shot looking thing. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take Jaden Schwartz as my dark horse.
Okay. That's all good. Shorthanded goals. This might be the most random type stat that we're looking at here because it takes a lot for a shorthanded goal to materialize. I guess you need somebody who's going to be penalty killing. That's, I guess, the one thing you need to know and to guess. But of the penalty killers, I mean, it's anyone's game, right?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I was going to say I'm going to still play it safe and take Jared McCann because it just involves goal scoring. And I figure, I look, I got burned by this last year, right? Thinking that Tanev ended up with the most breakaways, law of averages, he should then end up with the most goals, right? And I was wrong. So instead of going for the guys that I think are going to have the most breakaway opportunities, I'm going to go with the guy I think will convert on the highest percentage of his breakaway opportunities. Just do a complete 180 from my thought process last year. That's Jared McCann.
It is Jared McCann, and I have to still go with him. It is a goal-scoring category, and last year he tied for the lead. The year before that, tied for the lead. He's going to be a penalty killer again. He's going to be someone who can convert on those chances. Same reasoning. I was checking to see if he also tied for the lead on the team in the inaugural season. No, it was Mark Giordano and Colin Blackwell. Yeah. But not going with either of those two guys. It's got to be Jared McCann.
Yeah. Dark horse, I want to say Brandon Tanev, but also there's a chance Tanev gets moved at the deadline. So I don't want to say Brandon Tanev.
Right. And if he does put himself in a position to lead the team in shorthanded goals before the deadline where he could potentially hang on to that, it's probably less likely he's going to be traded.
Exactly.
Okay, my dark horse?
Yeah.
Matty Beniers.
That's what I was going to go with.
Oh, come on. Okay, we're agreeing. We disagreed too much on the red glare last week.
Yeah, we did.
With our lists of players that we would commit big money in term to. There was some real disagreements on that on the Patreon podcast. So I guess now we're agreeing too much to make up for it.
All right, you know what? I'm going to go, then I'll go with Tanev.
It's a dark horse pick. It can be, you can go off the board.
Yeah, I'll go Tanev then. You can have Matty.
Okay, stick by your boy. There we go. Yep. All right, game-winning goals. I have a
this one is really wide open.
On this one. It's really wide open.
This is.
The fact that Alex Wenberg was the winner last year shows you how wide open it is.
Right. Well, and Shane Wright was tied with a bunch of guys at second place despite playing 8 games. So you can't necessarily go with the just whoever has the most goals then has the most opportunity for game winners. It doesn't really work itself out like that, as evidenced by Wenberg leading last year. I'm gonna go with Shane Wright because I think it's a good combination. Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, look, it's written on my notes. Shane Wright.
I said it first, so he's mine. I'm going to Shane Wright because I think he's gonna be in the top 3 probably for goal scoring on this team, and also I just think he has that vibe about him, and I feel like this will be less of a case this year. Like I did kind of think about not taking him and going with just a McCann and playing the law of averages a little bit, but I just feel like Shane Wright, no matter what level he plays at, when he scores in games, it just has this effect on the rest of his team, where the rest of his team goes out and then wins that game. I've seen that. We've seen that with the Kraken. We've seen that with the Firebirds. We saw that with him in junior. We saw that with him at the World Junior Championship. when he's engaged in a game like that and he's getting going and things are working right for him, things just then tend to work right for the rest of the team around him. And I think that that'll be the case this year with the Kraken as well. Maybe not to the insane level that it was last year where, 75% of his goals are game winners. That's obviously not sustainable. But I just think that there are players like that when they perform well, the team around them performs well. And I think Shane Wright's just one of those guys. And I don't see that changing just because he's here full time.
Okay, well, I'm going to make things interesting then, because I'll give you Shane Wright. I'm going to go with somebody who I feel the same way about a lot of the time. If things are working for him, things are working for the team. Everything just kind of works for it. It's rare that things are going right for him recently, but Andre Burakovsky, when he's on, it feels like things are going right for the whole team. And
agreed.
And he scored some clutch goals, not this past season, but the one before it, right? I think of an overtime winner, right? I think he can be up there if he plays a full season. He can be in that conversation for game winners and score a lot more goals than the 7 he scored last season. If he can get back to his normal 20-25 goal form, then I think enough of those could be game winners. He could lead. So I'll go with my off the board pick, try and make things interesting. Andre Burakovsky.
I like it. I like it a lot. It's good.
No, I'm
good
sure
pick.
you do.
Well,
it's
of any one of these, like you could just about pick anybody, right? Like,
yep.
Like there's very few guys on this team outside of, at least forward wise that you could pick that I think would be bad picks. All right.
Shots. Is this one too easy again?
It does. I feel like we should probably, until the Kraken significantly have turnover in the forward core, we should probably retire guessing this stat category because it's just going to be Jared McCann.
Yeah, we probably should. Jared McCann is the obvious shot leader as long as he stays healthy. And if he doesn't, then what are our chances of picking the right person? He's led the team in shots every season in their history. It's Jared McCann.
Right. And dark horse, it's still Bjorkstrand.
Yeah, nobody else was close to those two.
No. And even I'm just trying to look at like shot rate. A full season of Shane Wright, I don't think he's going to be at that level with them. Like,
no.
He doesn't project to be. So, it's McCann, and then if it's not McCann, it'll be Bjorkstrand, and that's it.
Yep. So from a lock to one that's way more wide open, shooting percentage.
Yeah. Now I'd put my over under for Shane Wright because he could be one of the favorites you could pick here. I'd put his shooting percentage for a full rookie season at 11.8% last week. And I felt like that was still reasonable. That would still be on the high end on this team, but would it be enough to lead? Who do you have, RJ?
I mean, I think almost certainly not. It wouldn't be enough to lead.
Right.
If it's 11.8, you need a little bit higher than that, given what Jared McCann shoots every single year.
Yeah.
And I want to go with Jared McCann.
It's Jared McCann, like it is.
Okay, were you going to pick McCann?
Yes, because I have to. Like every goal scoring thing until Shane Wright fully develops. Like next year 5 for the Kraken, I feel like all of these goal scoring things will be a lot more of a toss up between McCann and Shane Wright. But until then, I just think it's McCann.
Okay, then I'll give you McCann.
Okay.
I'm trying to make things more interesting here. And I will go with the guy who I had as my dark horse, but I'll just pick him.
Yeah.
Chandler Stevenson.
Yeah, it's a good pick.
Yeah. So Chandler Stevenson, by the way, he shot at 16.5% last year. And a lot of that is because he just doesn't really shoot the puck. He only shot the puck 97 times, 97 shots in 75 games, just a little over less than 2 per game. But he's accurate with those, I guess, 16.5%. And I thought that might just be some kind of anomaly because that is really high. It's not. He's a career 15.5% shooter.
Yeah.
Which is wild. Like 15.5%. His career rate would have been first on the Kraken last year if you exclude Shane Wright's wild numbers in 8 games.
Yep.
But over, full season, that would have led the team last year. That looks repeatable. So
yeah,
I don't even think it's that much of a dark horse pick. I'm going with Stevenson.
Yeah, no, I like that pick. I think that's a good pick. There's not much to say about it. It makes a lot of sense. Ice
time leader. Is this as easy as it was last year? Or are we both just going with Vince Dunn again?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be Vince Dunn. He might lose some of the power play time to Brandon Montour, but he should make up for it on the PK. So I think Vince Dunn makes the most sense here.
And it's average ice time per game too, so even injuries don't really factor in here a bunch. He could miss 20 games and the average ice time could still be higher. So
right.
I think that provides safety for him there.
Yeah, should we have fun with it and do highest average ice time for forwards?
Yeah, let's do that.
Because
let's add that category.
That had been right, because that had been Wenberg for a while, and it was last year as well. Interesting, Matty following up Alexander Wenberg there. Matty with the second most ice time amongst forwards on average last year. I feel like the easy answer is to say Chandler Stevenson, because he'll come in and kind of be that veteran 1C, more trustworthy, dependable, whatever you want to call it, guy, similar to Wenberg last year. He can play in multiple situations. He'll be out there on the power play. He'll be out there on the PK. But I do feel like Matty's going to, or should, get more PK time this season. And I feel like that could put Matty Beniers in a spot where he could potentially lead the forward group in ice time this year.
Right. He was second among forwards in ice time last year. So just behind Wenberg, who's no longer here. So Matty's an okay pick. I'm going to go with somebody else. I'm going to go with Jared McCann. I feel like we picked him for everything. But like, he had way too little. He was averaging 16:46 of ice time, and he's the team's leading scorer and leading in just about everything. I think Dan Bilesma is going to be a little smarter here and realize, look, he's going to have to lean on his best players. We're not going to see the Dave Haxtell ice time distribution. We're just not.
Right.
Like, there's Bilesma can't get away with that. You can't win with that. So I think he's going to really up the ice time for the team's best players. And Jared McCann is the team's best forward. So I think you're going to see the biggest bump for him. Stevenson is probably the smart pick just because of all the roles and situations he'll be in. But McCann's going to get power play time. He's going to get PK time. I think that path is certainly there for him.
Yeah, I mean, he should win out. Like, that does make sense. Because as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, Matty will be like second line minutes. He'll probably be second power play unit. He'll probably be second PK unit. Is that enough? And it was like, well, that's probably enough if nobody else plays first unit, all of those things. And yeah, you chose the guy who should play first unit on all of those things.
Yeah, why shouldn't he? So I'm hoping we see a lot more ice time for Jared McCann this season. It just makes so much sense. So I'll bet on it here.
All right, I revised mine to Chandler Stevenson.
Okay, that is fair. There you go. At least it's someone who's got more of a chance here.
Yeah.
All right, blocked shots. The one where Jamie Alexiak surprised us all.
Yeah.
It's no longer a one-man race, Dylan.
No.
I feel like it's probably a two-man race, though.
It is a two-man race between him and Adam Larson. I don't see anybody else kind of getting in there as much as them. Because this is a counting stat, right? So, like, ice time matters. Opportunities matter. It's going to be one of those guys. I do think, you know what? I don't think last year was just like a weird fluky year. I do think Jamie Alexiak can do this. I think that's who Jamie Alexiak is now, is this guy. His shot blocks had never been over 100 until 2 seasons ago, and then never above 115 until last year. But I think Jamie Alexiak has just kind of reached the point of his career where he's going to be hanging out net front a little bit more. He's going to be leaving it to his defensive partner to kind of do more chasing into the corner or behind the net, stuff like that. I think that Jamie Alexiak is just going to be in a spot more often to block a shot, and he'll lead the team again.
No, I had some of the same thoughts that you did about him being in the spot there, and especially if he's paired with Brandon Montour, he might be in line for a bigger role and some more ice time.
Yeah.
If he can really be that second pairing guy and just have more opportunity. That said, I like Adam Larson to retake the crown here as the blocked shot leader. He's going to have more ice time than Alexiak still, I think, and he's going to be potentially deployed in more defensive roles. Maybe it's with Jamie Alexiak, with the two of them paired together if they're defending something, but I think Lars, he has that history of being more of a shot blocker. And I think he's going to adjust his mindset a little bit to get even more defensive and focus on the defensive parts of his game. Because with Montour and Dunn on the team and Riker Evans, he's not going to have to do anything offensive.
Yeah.
And puck moving, all that is taken care of. I think he can really focus on making sure pucks don't get to the net. And I think that's what he's going to do.
I like that. I certainly want that to be the case. I'd love to be wrong on this one. And have that be the case. I just think in situations where they're going to be out there and deployed together, I think Larson's the better skater, and I think Larson handles more of the roaming things, and Jamie Lexiak will
When it's
still
the two
stay
of them,
home.
yeah.
When it's the two of them. So I'll stick with Jamie Lexiak. But I could also see if like first unit defense for PKs ends up being just Larson Dunn.
That could
Lars
be.
could end up in this spot because, to be honest, that's probably what I would consider doing if I was in charge of the PK. Lowry, if you're listening, Coach Lowry, just a thought. And in which case, then Adam Larson should retake the crown just based on those PK opportunities. But for now, I'll stick with Jamie Lexiak.
Yeah, can't go wrong with either of those picks. It's going to
No.
be one of those two.
Definitely.
Hits. And with the new hit stats, this is really interesting. Definitely
is.
more inclined to go with the forward this time
Yes.
around because we've seen the way that this is counted. I mean, credit to you. You went with the forward last time. I did not. Who are you thinking for the hits leader this year? Does Ty Cartier repeat?
I think Ty Cartier repeats. I mean, he's got his coach now. He's got the coaching, large part of the coaching staff that he's comfortable with. I think that's, he's settled into that being his role. Also, I think he's the kind of guy that when he does decide to make physical contact with somebody, he doesn't leave room for interpretation about whether or not it was a hit. And I feel like that's generally a fairly safe thing to do. I think he's also still young and has the energy to go out there and play that way for another season or two before, like, the little bumps and bruises start like taking a toll and you start second guessing whether or not you should do that every single play. I feel like he hasn't reached that point of his career yet. He's still playing to, get paid and make sure he still has a roster spot. So I think from a motivational, factor, it's also a big deal there. So I think Ty Cartier repeats.
Yeah, I have to agree. And I've been trying to go with different ones than what you've picked. But when I look at all the numbers, I can't find a case not to go with him.
They're just some heavy
Leading the
favorites,
team last year on only 1150 of ice time per game, too. It's not like that was inflated and it might go down. He's going to have the opportunity to do it. It just makes too much sense. Dan Bilesma loves him.
Yeah.
That's the thing with the coaching change, too. I feel like Cartier is going to get every opportunity. I bet that ice time number is going to go up for him, given how much Dan likes him. And he's not going to play any different.
Yeah.
He knows exactly how he plays. He knows what he's going to go out there and do. And it's going to go hit guys. And like you said, it doesn't leave anything open to interpretation. When he hits somebody, it's a hit. I can't imagine it's anybody else. Maybe Ellie Tolvanen somehow. I don't know how he makes these hit numbers as high as they are.
Yeah.
And maybe he works his magic, but I don't see anyone but Cartier.
Like I said, seriously though, watch Ellie Tolvanen on the forecheck. You'll understand how he has these numbers. Again, he's very good physical on the forecheck. Like I said, I wouldn't consider them all hits, but he's very good at tying up other players, making his presence felt, doing a lot of the dirty work on a forecheck that you want a player to be doing. Ellie Tolvanen is great at that. He's potentially the best player the Kraken actually have as far as being like a physical presence on the forecheck. But I just think Ty Cartier's got it locked up for the next little bit here.
Yep. Now, face-off percentage.
Yeah.
A little bit of controversy last year on this one. So we have our limit, right? It's 100 face-offs. They have to have taken at least 100 face-offs.
Right.
But given that, who is going to be team face-off percentage leader?
Yeah. So there's, just like with last year, there is an obvious choice. And that would be the incoming guy. Just like it was last year with Belmar, it would be Chandler Stevenson. I don't see... I know you want to pick him, so I'm looking for somebody else I think it could reasonably be, and there is nobody. Because I just looked at Jaden Schwartz's career face-off numbers, and it's sub 50% for his career. I don't think he magically figured something out at the age of 31 to just become a face-off god as a winger. So I don't think he's going to repeat, even though he should probably end up with, again, over 100 face-offs. I'm sorry, but it's just Chandler Stevenson. It just is.
You're right. And I was tempted to maybe go with Schwartz after seeing his fantastic results last season. But you're right. Looking at his career numbers, it just doesn't seem repeatable. Certainly not worth making my pick that as opposed to Stevenson. None of the other centers. I mean, Shane Wright was over 50%. A 20-year-old is not gonna do that well in the face-off dot over the course of a whole season. Even 21-year-old, whatever. We saw the kind of slower progression that Matty Beniers had. Look, he progressed, he got better, but it's a slow progression, and I think there is kind of a veteran advantage to face-offs in the NHL, and Stevenson certainly is that, and none of the other centers have shown that they can get in that range, even if Wright is 50.6% again, which would be fantastic. I think we both take that.
Definitely.
That's not going to lead the team.
No. I was going to say, in Maddie's, defense, I've talked about this in the past. We talked about this a lot back like that first Kraken off season, around, why did they pick Morgan Geekie and stuff. And I talked about how with a lot of young centers, a lot of the guys that ended up top faceoff players in the NHL, their third full season is when the faceoff stuff finally comes together for them. They feel comfortable and confident enough in the rest of their game that they can start taking a step forward in something like faceoffs and start putting more effort and time and focus behind it. So it would not surprise me if Matty Beniers kind of takes the largest jump that he's taken in his NHL career this year in faceoffs. Historically, it should come this year or next year. That would be the time in which it would happen, if it's going to happen. I could see that for Matty Beniers. I could see Matty Beniers finally becoming like a 50% guy, and that would be pretty cool. But I think
he just has too much else to work on.
I do too. That's my worry. Is like normally for other guys, whether it was Jonathan Toews, Sidney Crosby, Steven Stamkos, all these guys that did improve, but it was a couple years into their career, they had the rest of the game a little bit more down than Matty Beniers does, and so yeah. But I did want to talk about that.
Use of his priority if he's going to focus on something.
No, it wouldn't be. But I did want to talk about that because I've brought it up in the past, and that is like a progression thing. And I think Shane will follow that progression. I think that seems pretty reasonable. But I do wonder about that with Matty. It is a storyline to kind of watch though for him.
Yep. So onto the goalie categories. It's chaos time.
Yep.
We're going to try and predict this right. Expect the unexpected. But Dylan,
Stetska for all of them. Give it to me.
Yeah, that's good. All he has to do is hit 5 games.
All he's got to do is play 5 games and I'm golden. He'll be the guy for sure.
So, okay, if you do that, respect to you for doing that. I will not. I mean, we can start things off by just saying, I think there are only 2 potential names we can pick this year.
Yeah, it's Joey and Drew.
Yeah, there's nobody else. Steska, I don't think will factor in, even with an injury. Like you look at last year too, Grubauer. Like that's a pretty almost worst case scenario, right? Grubauer gets injured long term. Drieger only got into 2 games, and that's Chris Drieger, who is proven NHLer. I don't see anybody else getting in for more than 5 games. It'd have to be a bad scenario, which I can't predict. So we'll start with wins. The one counting stat we have here, just wins. Joey led last year. Martin Jones the year before. Are we picking Grubauer too? I guess he led in wins in the inaugural season. But are you picking him to lead for the first time since then, or are you going with Joey?
I really want to, but historically, this team just plays worse in front of him. Like I'm not putting this on him. I am putting this squarely on everybody else on the team. We've all talked about this. Like I can't count the amount of post-game lives where we've talked about this. The team, for whatever reason, just does not play as solid in front of Philipp Grubauer. At least historically, maybe if Joey becomes the de facto starter, maybe that mentality changes a little bit. I also think there's going to be something to Grubauer has had some time off because he was injured last year, didn't play, his normal allotment of games. Probably won't this year either, just because it should be a fairly even split between the two of these goaltenders. So maybe that helps him out, just because each start he's going to really want to get in there and prove himself. That being said, I still feel like Joey has some of that to him too, where he wants to show that last year's not a fluke. I think it's pretty close, but just because the team seems to always let down Philipp Grubauer, I got to go with whoever is not Philipp Grubauer. In this case, Joey Decord.
That's fair. I understand that pick, but I'm going to go with Grubauer.
Go for it. I want you to be right. Leader. I'll root for it.
I am announcing my philosophy here. I am going with the chaos strategy because that is what goaltending is. Expect the unexpected.
Yep.
So I'm going to expect the unexpected this year. I think Grubauer will be the wins leader. I'm tempted to just pick him for everything. I can't do it. I can't bring myself to do it, but I'm tempted to just pick him across the board, because I feel like that would be the most unexpected result.
Yeah.
So moving on to save percentage. Can you pick him here? Because this is the toughest one.
I was just going to say, this is the one that I feel like is truly impossible to pick Philipp Grubauer. I'm going Joey for save percentage. This one, I mean, you could go for the unexpected and say Philip Grubauer, but that's just wrong.
No, even embracing the chaos, I cannot pick Philip Grubauer to lead the team in save percentage. Even last year, with things going so much better for him, he still didn't get above 900.
Yeah.
And I remember for the over-unders, you set it at 904 or something like that. I'm like, you set it way too high, man. I would have taken the under at 900. Look, we know what this is. Whether it's again, new coach, new system, so maybe there's something different there. But he's yet to crack 900 save percentage in his time with the Kraken. So I just cannot pick him. I'm going with Joey too.
Yeah, I think the new coach, new system thing is interesting to consider for Philip Grubauer because he did not do well with the kind of conservative defensive approach that the Kraken played with under Dave Hackstall and with Jay Leach being the kind of defensive coach focusing on things there. I could definitely see Philip Grubauer do better under like what Bob Woods is going to be doing and working with the defense, where if Grubauer can face more regular low percentage shots, you know, his numbers should improve because that's when Grubauer is at his best, right? He's going to make all the saves he should make and that you need him to make. It's just how many saves above that is he going to go out there and make is generally the question. And last year, the way the defense was trying to be ultra conservative, but then if they blew anything, it was going to be an ultra high scoring chance for the other team. I feel like that wasn't as solid as just maybe giving up some more regular chances, but making sure that they stay reasonable chances. I feel like that's going to be that's more Bob Woods' style, coaching a defense. I think that is going to benefit Philip Grubauer, but also we know the way Dan Bylsma wants his whole team to be playing, and we know Joey Daccord looks pretty darn good behind that, so I still think Joey Daccord.
Yeah, so Joey Daccord.
But look for, I could see this being Grubauer's best statistical season just because of the change in philosophy in front of him. It should, in theory, benefit him.
If it doesn't, I don't know what will. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
So on to goals against average. Now, this is one where I feel more comfortable picking Philip Grubauer. So I'm going to go back to my whole Grubauer across the board strategy because this is one he actually did lead a couple seasons ago. In year 2, he was the team's goals against average leader, despite Martin Jones being the wins leader and Joey being the save percentage leader and all of that. This is one that he's shown me he can actually win. And I think even, you know, with goals against average, look, it is what it says. It's goals against average. It doesn't take the number of shots into account. Yep. And I think Grubauer's numbers for the shots and save percentage can look worse than how he's actually playing. But this one, I think, is generally more favorable to him. So I'll pick him as the winner here.
I was just going to say, I want to too. Like I don't have to we want to be different, but I do feel like this is the category that makes sense for Grubauer for all the reasons you just said, for all the reasons I was just talking about. Also why for the next category, I would not pick Grubauer for the reasons I talked about earlier. We can get to that in a second, but goals against average. I just think Joey was remarkable last season. I think just it's hard to do that year over year. I think the way that whole team is going to play is just going to lead to maybe some more opportunities coming back the other way that they weren't ready for last year, or that they weren't always giving up last year. It's going to be a bit more back and forth to try to open up the offense for the Kraken. And I could see Joey realistically just having a couple games where he gets lit up. Like, I think that's potentially in the cards for Joey, is that he'll be a little bit more of the all or nothing goalie this upcoming season. And so I do like Philip Grubauer for goals against average.
Okay, well then you alluded to the next one, quality start percentage, and why you cannot go with Philip Grubauer. Yep. But I will tell you why I am going with Philip Grubauer for quality start percentage. So first of all, let's explain a little bit quickly what a quality start is. We meant talk about expected goals models a lot during the season. And so basically a quality start is, and it varies from one expected goals model to the other because it's calculated differently. But basically a quality start is when you save more, when you allow fewer goals than what you were expected to let in. So you take the overall shot quality based on whatever expected goals model it is. And let's say in a given game, your opponent gets 2.5 expected goals, the number of goals they would be expected to score given the shot quality that they had. And you only allow 2 goals as a goalie. That's a quality start. But if you allow 3 goals, that is not a quality start, because you allowed more goals than what was expected. So that's the stat, quality start percentage. And that's the percentage of your games that are quality starts out of the total of all of them. So I'm going to go with Grubauer because what this stat does is it does take shot quality into account. It's not just talking about shot volume like a save percentage. And when you do take shot quality into account, I think that is beneficial to Grubauer's numbers. I think that tells more of the story. Doesn't tell the full story all the time. I think a lot of the like really grade A chances are kind of undercounted on a lot of expected goals models, but it tells more of the story than just number of shots. And I think that's going to help him. So I'm going to go with Grubauer here. Also, in year 2, when things were going well, he did lead the team by quite a bit in quality start percentage, 611. That's pretty darn good, even though Martin Jones, as I said, was the wins leader and led in other categories. Grubauer has shown he can do it when things go well. So if we're going with expect the unexpected, I have to stick with Grubauer here. I'll go with him across the board, except for save percentage.
Yeah, for the reasons I said earlier, which was Grubauer is the kind of goalie that makes the saves he should make, doesn't always make the saves that you love him to make. I think just that being his kind of steady Eddie style, I just can't pick him for something like quality starts because I just don't. I think like it's reasonable, but I think he'll always just hover at 50%. He's gonna be around 50%. I know he was higher than that in year 2. But also like I'm looking at his like goals saved above expected for like his career and stuff. And he'll always kind of end up when in the years that things go right for him, he's going to end up saving just under 5 goals saved above expected for the season. And I don't know that that's enough to up his quality start percentage enough all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. And look, the smart money is on Joey Daccord here. I am intentionally going against what the logic would say that you would do. Joey far and away led the team in quality start percentage last year, 652, Grubauer down at 441. It wasn't even close.
Yeah.
So
Joey
I'm finding ways to justify it, but the smart money is on Joey Daccord. You don't really have to make that much of a case for it.
Yeah. I will say this also, looking at Philip Grubauer, he goes a negative season, and then a positive season, then a negative. Oh, this is for goals saved above expected. Negative season, positive season, negative season, positive season. Last year was technically a negative season, even though it was virtually zero at 0.04, negative 0.04. So in theory, this should be a positive season. So if it was going to happen, this would be the year.
See, this is the kind of vibes-based thinking that goaltending is all about. So that's exactly. I feel much better about my picks.
Very well could be. Yeah. No, good. Go for it. Now,
all right.
You've been marking all these, right?
Yeah, of course.
How many did we pick the same person?
Let's see.
Was it half? I just don't want it to be like half of all the categories.
I believe it's a little under half at quick glance.
All right, that's fine then.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That is an acceptable number. Yeah, to create some difference for next year. And look, a lot of it is the goal stuff that's built in. For McCann, there are certain categories, but you have to pick goals. You got to pick goals leader. Yeah. How do you skip that one? So I think we're okay. And for the goaltending stuff, there's been difference. Now I hope we pick somebody different. We better pick somebody different for the final category. We are past regulation. We're past overtime.
Yep.
It's time to pick shootout goals.
Yep.
So many options here, Dylan. I'll let you go first and just. Please do not pick the person I have in mind. You better not do it. I'm making it easy for you. There's like 23 plus players you could go with. Just don't pick the one that I'm thinking of. It's not hard.
Is the one you're thinking of Jordan Eberle?
No, it's not.
Okay, I'm going Jordan Eberle because he's the only one.
I made it easy on you. Yeah. You'll know when I pick.
Jordan Eberle's the only one who's shown he can be consistent in this. He's got a fairly decent career percentage when it comes to these. I give me some Jordan Eberle for this. It's not exciting, but you know what? It's so random. It's so random.
Yeah, it is random. It's certainly not exciting. That is not the exciting pick. So I will go much more exciting than you will. I'll say that much. So I made it easy for you not to pick. That's a good one. Here's the thing. I cannot pick him because I have not seen him in practice take shootout attempts or anything like that. I have no book on him. I should go look and see if he's taken shootout attempts. I don't know. But I can't go with him quite yet. I need to go with somebody that I've at least seen. So it's going to be someone who's been on the Kraken. And the ultimate thing that I am banking on here, I'm confident that I know who the Kraken's best shootout shooters are.
Yeah.
You've been saying this years in practice.
You have been confident about this.
I have been very confident about this. The Kraken's optimal shootout lineup is Adam Larsson, Jamie Alexiak, Will Borgen. Maybe not in that order. I would go Larsson, Borgen, Alexiak. Maybe have Borgen lead it off if he feels like it. I don't know. But those are the three ideal shootout shooters for the Kraken. You may not like it, but that is what peak shootout performance looks like. I think Dan Bylsma, once he sees a few practices, once he sees the guys get some reps in, I think he's smart enough. I think he's going to see it.
I think he's going to do it.
Hackstall would absolutely never do it. Would never give him a chance. I know this. I think Bylsma's going to do it. I think he's going to give one of them an opportunity in the shootout when it arises. And once he does, there's no going back because these guys will not miss.
Yeah, you think so? Like the moment won't be too big for him.
Absolutely not. The moment will not be too big for them. No way. And especially not too big for the big cat because I think he's going to be the one that you can most reasonably give a chance to. Yeah. Adam Larsson, he's going to get a shot at some point. He will score. And he's not going to stop scoring. So Adam Larsson for the team lead in shootout goals. Book it right now.
I love it. I love it, love it, love it. It's going to be Shane Wright probably, but I love it.
Oh, yeah, probably. But yeah, I would say if you picked Adam Larsson, I was going to be so mad.
Yeah, no, that's been your thing. You have been on this for a long time. You've been trying to make it happen. I think if ever there was a time to use the ultra secret card that teams give press members, that laminated punch card that allows you to call one shot during the season, next shootout, you should call that favor in, RJ.
I tried last year.
Yeah,
I tried to use it for whatever reason. The card wasn't reading or whatever, but or maybe I shouldn't have wasted it. I don't know.
It was weird when Hackstall said it got lost in the mail.
I know, right? So anyway, that is the one thing. If I ever do get that chance to just call one shot, that's what I'm going to do. I will use it on that because that's the only thing I feel really confident about.
I absolutely love that. I think that's fantastic.
So I can think of no better way to close out this podcast.
There isn't one. There isn't one. Other than to maybe remind people about your Armchair GM stream, RJ.
That's right. Armchair GM stream tomorrow, 7 p.m. Going to be a really fun time. We'll navigate this whole thing together without Cap Friendly. It's going to be great. It's going to be a good time.
It definitely will be. And also one more shout out to Queen Anne Beer Hall. Football season is upon us. Fantasy drafts are happening all over the place. I know our upcoming weeks are littered with them. And football season is upon us. Hockey season is just around the corner. Basketball is going to be coming back soon. All that great stuff. Queen Anne Beer Hall is the place to watch it all. I want to thank everybody for joining us for this one, and we will see you all next time.
Hey everyone, before we go, we just wanted to give a quick shout out to all of our awesome patrons over at patreon.com/Emerald City Hockey, especially our Terror of the Deep patrons.
Thank you so much for making all this possible. We really appreciate your support.